The Yellow Brick Road. This video does not reflect the actual views of real people. These are actors playing a role to entertain audiences. No persons or animals were harmed in the making of this video. Gosh, I love YouTube and I love Google.
Welcome to the Yellow Brick Road. I'm Jordan, this is James, and today we're going to be following up on our favorite fetish. That's right, atheists on YouTube.
Yeah.
Our favorite intellectual fetish. Get it?
Yeah, that.
Get it? S&M fetish. Guy in a suit and mask and shit showing up at random parties and...
If you want to call them parties.
Just eyes wide shut, that's all. So, this is Logicked.
You got Logic that did it.
Logicked from YouTube, and his video name is Yes, I Can Judge God. Let's analyze it.
On my last video where that guy tried to justify Allah's behavior by appealing to slavery, I got a comment from someone called Half Monty. And originally I just replied flippantly, but I actually kinda like this subject matter and I do have a few things to say on it that I haven't said before, and so I figured I might as well reply in a video. Besides, he seemed upset that I didn't actually argue about the basis of my morality in the video, which really wasn't the point, and I don't think I have to justify my moral opinions in every single video or every single time I make a moral condemnation, let alone explain how I can hold any moral opinions at all as an atheist. When I'm blasting some guy for acting like an anti-human asshole, the very last thing I feel any need to discuss is moral philosophy. But I'll do it now, so here goes.
I think you should for yourself, if anything. You don't have to for others, but maybe for yourself.
I only say do it as far as like for another person if you're trying to establish like what is. Or like, dude, what you're doing isn't right. Well, what is right? I can tell you. And there you go. Like,
yeah, so that'd be a reason to go there. But I see what he's saying.
To be clear, I don't like Islam, I don't want to defend Islam, and I don't agree with the concept of slavery representing a God-human relationship.
Okay, so you have a different moral position from the guy in the video. Okay.
However, this whole video is riddled with moral stances that you then apply to a god. Yep, the old morality versus God argument, and you're falling right into it. You present a fairly well and understood position that it's immoral or inherently bad to start smashing another human, or force us into a pit of fire, burn our skin off, replace it with new skin, and do that over and over and over. Your god is a despicable creature. Based off of what?
Based off of my morality, of course, just like you or anyone else would do it. What do you think, I'm some sort of space alien or weird demon or something? You think my morality works in some totally different way from the morality of the humans?
Most atheists don't agree on an objective and universal moral code, right?
Does anyone really, ultimately? People say they do, sure, but I don't think they quite understand what they're saying. If you think there's a universal moral code, you're delusional. The video...
And here's where I start disagreeing. I believe there is a universal moral code. Just... Okay, let's break down morals. What do morals require? What are they, essentially? They're choices, right? So you have to be able to make a free choice in order to make a moral choice. Now, if someone's conditioned by, let's say, religion or society, social values, culture, all that shit, and they might not be really making a choice. Thus, you can't call them moral opinions. They're more of just conditioned responses.
like a playbook.
Yeah.
Like, thou shalt not kill. Why? Because it says. Versus...
in the book.
Or, well, I already know why it's bad.
Or, I'll go to jail. But let's find out if that's the direction he's moving in, because if he is moving that wrong, then he might be indeed the delusional one. Get my words right, son. He's a word checker, so
he's a wordsmith.
Instead of just like, oh, I get what you mean. That's just a spell check error. I get it. Instead of that, he's just, well, you spelled the word wrong. So.
It's alright, you know. 3D glasses.
Yeah. Don't show that face, son. Don't do it.
The video you're commenting on is a good example. The guy I'm responding to believes slavery is so well justified that it can be used to justify any attack by his god against any human for any reason. And on the other hand, I believe slavery is totally unjustified in principle in all places and times, no matter who does it or what justifications they offer. And yet somehow you think the same moral code is held universally? Well, it's clearly not universal. At least one person does not share that moral code. So it's a complete denial of reality to think it's universal. And
if you consider something like psychology, you'll see there's a difference between, well, at least in my understanding of psychology, you might not be able to read it in a book somewhere, but my understanding of psychology, there's a difference between the ego and the subconscious and the superego and the self and all these levels. So someone making a decision on their ego level may actually have a different response from the self, who's yelling like, "This is wrong, what the fuck are you doing?" But the ego's like, "I have to do this. I can't feed my kids unless I do this."
Yeah.
Thus, I might not call that, what I call a choice? I'm not even sure I'd call that choice.
It's almost as I
call it a reaction rather than a choice.
It's
or
like
a response.
It's like an action should be through the ringer, you know? It's like, is this remote faulty? We're going to send it to our people.
Yeah.
But before that, right, instead of that, it'd be pick up the remote. You can sell this. Just throws it in the box, you know?
Yeah.
Put it on the shelf over there for 50 cents.
So in this example, does something like remorse or guilt emotions, do those count? Because someone could read some religious book that says chop the head off of someone because they ate red Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah.
But they're like, I have to do this. This is God's will, and their ego, with their emotions and their internal things going on, saying, fuck, I feel bad now for doing that shit. Until they come cold and completely disassociate with themselves.
It's called burying the conscious, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to be empty so I don't be hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
can't bear the pain of that.
So I don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't be hurt.
So
I don't get hurt, so I'll just bury it everything, and I'll make sure I'll be cold, and I won't be hurt anymore. Oh, I'm not going to get hurt ever again.
Probably the worst pain in human experience is that type of pain. Emotional, internal pain.
Which is why when I say, like, oh, you're running away from yourself, is like, oh, 'cause eventually, right? It's like, you got homework to do.
Yeah.
I gotta clean the bathroom. I'm gonna go play with my friends. I'll be right back. I just got this video game. Like, dude, your assignment's due tomorrow. What are you gonna do? You got 3 hours left.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, fuck. Like that kind of thing.
There's someone snapping their leg while they're on their way to saving someone, and there's someone snapping their leg because they're in a torture chamber.
Yeah.
There's so, in fact, the emotional pain probably has an effect on how you feel it physically, I would say.
Oh, I would say so. That's why some guys, when they get shot and shit, obviously the adrenaline and stuff like that, but they're so focused.
Well, what causes the adrenaline?
Yeah.
There you go.
It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, I made it.
It's
I made
the
it.
brain.
I'm across town. I don't even know where I am. They're like, ooh. And they just collapse. I'm like, yeah, dude, you lost, so much blood.
It's the brain reacting for survival.
I'm hardwired to believe this. Beep, beep. Beep.
No, it does not matter if you think there's a god out there with some preferred moral code who'll punish people after they're dead if they don't follow it. First, there's the fact that his morality is not objective just because he's a god. It's just that his subjective moral code happens to be the one backed up with the most amount of power to punish everyone who breaks it.
That I agree with. Well, I'm guessing when you say God, you mean some sort of book that some dudes wrote, whatever, 1,000 years ago.
Oh,
I'm thinking you mean that by God. So, in that case, yeah, I agree with you.
But maybe someone will try to argue that God's morality actually is the one true objective morality of the universe.
Now, if you're not talking about the book gods, because there are probably some gods defined in the books that are okay, but I don't think they're in the main three, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity.
Yeah.
I think they're in like some weird book we've never heard of before.
There's plenty of them that are not there in front of our eyes, you know.
Or maybe even the heretical books. With it, like I've heard of those, the heretical Gospels of Thomas, Gospel of Philip, those things that define God in a little bit different way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't even know what my point was.
It's like let's not include this here though. So as far as a God that's above us, that's greater than us, and we're just ants, rather than it be it's really me and you and her.
There's a reason I said that and I forgot. Let me rewind just a tad.
It's to be the one backed up with the most amount of power to punish everyone who breaks it. But maybe someone will try to argue that God's morality actually is the one true objective morality of the universe.
Ah, there you go. I don't know if this God exists in any text anywhere, but if there's a holistic type God, then yes, it would be absolute objective morality. Because it'd be based on everything. Thus the word holistic.
That's why I'll say something like God. Not God. This idea that something's like above me, like, and if there was, you know, it still wouldn't change as far as what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
It's like I'd be like, dude, you're wrong. Fucking try to smash me, no freak.
And okay, fine, I won't argue, because even if that's the case, it does nothing to change the obvious fact that individuals develop their own morality regardless.
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Because you use the keyword individuals. Well, who's an individual?
Or what is one?
What's it based on? Like, is your name even yours? Yeah. Does that mean an individual? My name is Jordan, his name is James. Does that make us individuals because our names are different?
Oh,
did we give ourselves our names?
It was given to me. I like it. I'm keeping it. That's that.
That's different. That's called existential work. To realize you're an individual, truly realize you're an individual.
Yeah.
Thus, you truly make a choice.
Rather than.
Thus, you truly make a moral decision. But if you're just conditioned on top of conditioning,
sure.
How are you actually making those choices?
And that's the rebel. It's like, hey, is that your hair, or did you see that somewhere? Oh, trying to be different, huh?
Or did you see that over there and say, I want to be the exact opposite?
Yeah. So that
would define the rebel more.
So you needed that.
Yeah,
so you could be different rather than being like, I really dig this shit, you know. All right, cool.
Yeah,
that's different.
All right.
Like I need to be different, or I need to be the same. I need to be accepted. Like same shit, man. Same shit.
Yeah.
Even the most deeply religious have to pick and choose from the moral edicts of their holy books, at the very least when they conflict, and they have to interpret their meaning, and then they also develop their own morality further on the side.
I argue the people that are actually deeply religious are the ones that are like, do you see what they mean here? The true meaning of these like, you know, like the doctrines and whatnot, the texts.
And yeah.
Not the ones that are like somewhat blindly following it, like
evangelical fundamentalist.
Yeah, evangelical fundamentalist approach. Who really wouldn't understand? Even an atheist would go, "Like you see? Are you kidding me? Coming back to life." Then it's like, then the fundamentalists, will go, he rose from the dead. And the guy that really looks at it is like, well, you say you're both silly here? You see how we could really come to an understanding of what does that mean? Fucking, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Really? Like, walk on water? Come on, man.
Contradictions start disappearing.
Like, what do you think that means?
Yeah. Once you read it as metaphor, contradictions fall apart to where you don't have to pick and choose. They're just passages to contemplate on. Not that I do that.
Like curing blindness? Come on. Come on, like really? Not only that, right? Resurrection,
yeah.
Temptation,
bread and wine.
Like, you ever heard of rap albums? Come on, man.
Fishing. And yeah.
Come on, the body, bread. Come on, son.
The wine, the blood.
Come on, man. The fuck? Really? Like, take a step back and look at that through that approach rather than just going, yep. He just literally turned that water into wine. Like, what do you think that means, man?
Or, yep, that's not possible. There's no value here.
It looks like I don't need like my as far as the existential approach. It's like, looks like I don't need this. Just throws it.
I'll wait for psychology to figure it out. Even though if they do go about it as like scientists, it's going to take generations upon generations.
I would say
figure things out.
I would honestly
and
say
we'll never really be sure.
I would say they already know. They just forgot.
Very possible.
That's what I would say. Because it's like, just talking to someone, you could get down to what you do know versus what you don't know.
Yeah.
So somewhere you already knew that. You just needed a push. You know.
Continuing.
But even if they pick morality straight out of a literal interpretation of a holy book, that was still individual choice. Their own choice of their own moral code, and their choice happened to be to use the book as a source.
So that's not your own individual morals. If it's here, I'm going to give this to you. Take it. It's a rule book. Here you go.
Yes.
And what is that?
Also, there has to be an individual there for there to be an individual moral choice.
If it's literally like
the individual doesn't know that they're an individual, how are they an individual? They can fantasize about being I'm independent.
Right.
They can fantasize about it egotistically, but do they know the entire structure of their mansion or house or whatever metaphor you want to use?
Is one individual, if it's like a walking piece of paper, and someone walks by with like a stamp of some sort of drawing or art, they just press on it like, all right, next. Like, is that you? Like, then what are you?
I'm a carpenter.
You know what I mean?
I'm a carpenter.
Yeah.
I make $10.50 an hour. I have 3 kids. Alright, continuing.
And look, I'm not sure if you believe in God, but let's just say you do. You believe in God, and so does the guy in the video, but you've come to radically different moral opinions. The mere fact of believing in God did not force you into whatever God's one true morality might be. There's no mechanism operating in the real world that forces people following any particular religion to adopt identical moral codes to each other.
You can use the imagination, unless that's not a real thing. I'm not saying what you imagine is real. Well, it is. It's real imagination. That's what I would say, but...
Like, he's saying that if I imagine some boobs in front of me, they'll appear. No, that's not what he means.
And there's real contemplation. That's a real thing. There is a psyche there. I don't know. Maybe it'll lead somewhere. Who knows?
And then never to change them based on their own thoughts and experiences. Devout believers in the tiniest, most fundamentalist church can still have moral disagreements with each other. So whether there's a God or not, whether you're a theist or an atheist, and whether you like it or not, the reality is the same. Humans choose or develop their own morality.
Wrong.
Yeah. It's called conditioning.
Well,
they can.
They do, but they don't. Or maybe they can would be a better word.
That's why I say can. If you want to be an asshole, you could say they do and they don't. That's basically, come on, bite. Bite.
I would say they do in the sense of they're on the way there.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you do. But they can sounds better.
That's why I call it conditioning.
Yeah.
Like, you're able to, man. You're able to.
And I think
That's why robots, right? That's why robots don't have morality, you know? It's a machine. Like, look, the machine saved you. I'm like, yeah, but someone fucking programmed it to do that. You know what I mean? That machine's not making a choice. It's like, literally like, beep, beep, what is the most optimal way to get to destination X? Straight line. Like, it's not, there's no morality in there.
Yeah.
There's no moral battle going on, you know?
Yeah. And the can, as in they can develop individual morality, will end up being the same as everyone else's in our theory here. It's real, but let's call it a theory.
Well, I'm applying
so
what I
offend
know.
People.
I'm applying what I know.
We'll call it that so we don't offend people. They like hearing I don't knows at the end of the videos, right?
I don't know for him.
Is this the case? I don't know. And
That's
the end
soft.
of it, yeah.
That's soft.
Well, it keeps audiences near and dear to the heart. Oh, you guys are safe here. For me, I'm like,
that's misleading.
Or they might actually not know.
It's like, guys, let's go for a swim. You'll be fine. Just some waves. Turns out we go in the eye, not like near the eye of the storm. There's fucking tidal waves and shit. I told you, just some. It's like, you told me I'd be safe here.
Yeah. It's fucking 20 minutes already. Shit. I just breezed through this shit.
Now, just to be sure that I've covered everything here, I'm going to consider other meanings you might have intended with the term universal moral code, which you might have just expressed poorly. So first, a moral code embedded into the nature of the universe itself. Maybe it's there, maybe it isn't, but the fact is this doesn't seem to have any impact on the real world. It's readily obvious that people develop their own morality either way. Some people keep slaves and others try to free them, for example. So,
conditioning, blah blah blah. That's considered a real thing in psychology. It's in the real world, real reality, as
you're real
because someone else told me so.
Using my 5 senses.
Yeah.
If moral laws are embedded in the nature of the universe itself in the same way the laws of physics are, well, people seem to break them without even trying anyway, so they don't seem to do much of anything, and...
Laws of physics.
I think physicality is embedded in the universe, but our laws of physics are the concept of it.
Yeah.
That's not the actual thing that's out there. We don't know the actual thing that's out there.
No, we don't.
But
we can make it sound like it's a fact when we do mental gymnastics and shit and distort reality. So yeah, just want to make that.
We're not knocking science. We're just
saying.
Just saying.
I apply it in many ways, but I don't like when someone says this is true. I'm like, it isn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to give you the truth.
I think we can discount them. Secondly, a moral code which applies to everyone universally. I don't deny the existence of such a thing, and it'd be hard to since mine is one of them. Whether I always succeed or not, my goal is to apply my standards of morality equally to everyone. So yeah, no problem there.
So either this is your personal view and moral code you are then trying to apply to an omniscient God which you would have no authority over, or you are appealing to a universal moral code which would have to have been put there by someone.
Yeah, it's the former, as is the case with every human moral judgment. A person's morality is just their views on what's moral. If you think when you make a moral judgment that's based on anything but your personal views, you're wrong. And that's true even if your personal view is the moral thing is whatever God said in the Bible. Just because the Bible says it, hell, even if God told you himself, even if God reached inside your brain and forced you to believe it, it's still your personal view, the view contained within your brain that what God says is right. You really can't escape the fact that the only thing you can base moral judgments on are your personal moral views, whether you think they're based on some objective morality or not. Now, as for whether I have authority over God, that's irrelevant, completely. Let's say I have a...
No, he's going to go on to the other argument.
Yeah.
I think we already explained that part already.
Yeah. God can't go inside my brain and force me. Okay, no. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. But... no, it doesn't turn into personal opinion, right? Because opinion is a belief system, correct? It's a function of belief, as opposed to knowing is a function of truth.
Just like if we...
Or knowing is a forcing, right? A function of truth. I don't want to put it that way because knowing and truth are two different things.
I'll call it a component.
It's the existential component of truth. I would say that. That's different than an opinion or believing something.
Just like establishing what goodness is, that's an absolute. Just like the truth. Or someone could use the word fact. Or, I know. Versus, I believe. Most likely, this is my theory. That can be like up for debate as far as like what's most likely versus this is known. This is a fact, straight up, not a percentage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opinions, estimations, probabilities,
educated guesses and shit.
They're in the realm of belief.
Yeah.
I know is I know. I know something.
Yeah. And then you could pick apart someone saying that if they really don't know, you know. Like, I know you fucking did it. I'm like, do you? Or do you believe that? I know. I'm like, you don't know.
Continuing.
Now, as for whether I have authority over God, that's irrelevant completely. Let's say I have a moral objection to something about President Donald Trump. Is my opinion invalidated by the fact that I have no authority over him? No, it's still my opinion, and it's the same with your God. I don't care if I have authority over it, or frankly, if it even exists. When some person tells me a characteristic they think it has, and that characteristic goes against every moral idea I hold, I condemn it. Oh, and by the way, why would a universal moral code held by every human being have to be put there by someone? Can you honestly think of no reason people might share an opinion other than a supernatural entity stuck it in their head?
That's not theirs.
It sounds like you're semi-making the argument for us, right? That people who actually do some existential work start developing that moral code, and then it ends up being similar to other people's moral codes who've done similar existential work.
Yeah.
So what happens if they do the full work?
Yeah.
Do these groups of people start understanding the objective morality of whatever scenario?
That's why I believe that these, like, the basic laws, that don't kill, don't steal, da-da-da-da, you know, but it's hardly ever really touched upon as far as why, you know.
I think people back then just wrote it for dum-dums. Like, fuck, they're stealing and they're killing each other. I went up to a mountain and lightning struck and
my point is this, though. My point is this. They had to do some sort of work to come upon, like, okay, we'll make these the laws based off of these things. We don't kill, don't steal, don't rape.
You know, it's probably...
I mean, all that shit. Yeah.
Yeah, some kid who sliced his hand open. It's like, it hurts. Gets it healed a week later. Sees another kid. It's like, he sees him crying. Like, fuck, that hurts. Fuck. It's like, if I can live a relaxed life while he can not be in pain too, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool.
It's like, literally, right? You. Empathy. Just write that down. Versus the veil of ignorance argument where it's like, well, I don't want it to be done to me. Versus, well, I know it's wrong. That's why I don't want it to be done to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I have, and you can prove all that. I don't even want to go into it. It might take too long.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Just existential work. Individuals.
Painted yourself into a morality corner where nearly every position you took in this video is logically flawed. The arguments against a universal moral code are logically sound in the context of no God.
They would be logically sound in the context of a God, too. Just because there's a God doesn't mean that God made a moral code. It also doesn't mean that God stuck the moral code in every single person's brain, or weaved it into the fabric of the universe, or whatever.
But in the context of an omniscient God, that also means he would have his own views, and he's omniscient, and your views are of no concern, and he wouldn't be subject to your judgment.
As I said before, the universal moral code that you're talking about is not actually universal. It's the opinion of one entity, God. Other entities still hold different moral opinions than he does. But sure, maybe God's morality is the one morality everyone will ultimately be accountable to. It's possible, and yet, despite that, humans can and do still have their own opinions. You say that because God is omniscient, the views of humans are of no concern to him, and he wouldn't be subject to their judgment. And you're right, he can't be held accountable to the morality of any person, even if he exists, only because he's much too strong to oppose. In which case, so what? That doesn't make him moral, it just means if a human disapproves of his actions, there's nothing they can do about it. But it sounds like what you're really saying is just that might makes right, just like the guy in the video who thinks anything God does is okay because he's stronger than everyone else. I fail to see any significant difference between the two of you, and you might want to take a minute to think about that. But there's something funny about what you said, and I have to set it up a little bit before I actually tell you what it is. So, the real problem people have with moral relativism is that a certain kind of moral relativist might say something like, that's just a different culture, my views are of no concern, they're not subject to my judgment, so I shouldn't judge them. And in my opinion, this is an idiot.
Those are the guys I would say go home.
Yeah.
You're not ready for this.
Yeah. There's a children's table, then there's an adult one where adults can speak.
Meaning? If a 10-year-old has like understands the difference between good and evil, he can sit at the grown-ups table. Versus Ben. Ben, you can go sit at the kiddies table.
I think Ben's a little better than I think he's a lot better than that on moral ideas. At least a moral philosophy. He's better than that.
Maybe.
I would think so.
Maybe.
Even if it's
idiotic way to do
someone
things,
else.
because it misses what I consider to be the whole point of even having a moral code. A moral code is a tool, or a framework, or whatever you want to call it, by which you can judge actions and statements. And if a white Canadian or a brown Pakistani holds a slave, I fail to see any moral difference. There's still a person in slavery because someone else thought it was okay to keep them there. I'm not a fan of double standards when it comes to people's well-being, and I see no reason to avoid judgment of someone over something as meaningless as their culture if your morality is defined based on the way actions impact individuals, or in other words, based on concern for the well-being of your fellow human. You absolutely can judge anyone from any culture based on your own morality, and if you want your morality to be useful in increasing the well-being of the individual, I think you probably should. And that being the case, I would propose that if you're not using your moral code to judge the actions and statements of everyone, regardless of their culture, then I would argue that you've made your moral code considerably less useful, since then it fails to apply to most people on the planet, and it could actually end up being destructive, since you would then lack the will to condemn actions which you would instantly see as hugely immoral if they were done by someone like you. And that's why I feel the need to judge everyone based on my own morality, regardless of who they are, where they're from, how they were raised. I don't care about any of that. And so, for example, since it's my opinion that the slavery of humans is very bad for individual humans, and there's no circumstance which makes slavery necessary for the greater good, I find slavery absolutely unacceptable in principle. Doesn't matter who does it, doesn't matter how they attempt to justify it. God or human, if you think you own a person and you can do any violent thing you want to them against their will, then your action is incompatible with my moral code and I condemn it. I don't care if you're too strong for me to stop you or not. I'll still judge you. But I mentioned there was something funny about what you said. You said,
but in the context of an omniscient God, that also means he would also have his own views, and he's omniscient, and your views are of no concern, and he wouldn't be subject to your judgment.
So here you've basically told me that because the God described in the video we're discussing just has different views on morality than I do, then my views are irrelevant, he's not subject to my judgment, and I shouldn't judge him. Which makes you exactly the same kind of moral relativist that I just described. The only difference is that your double standard is based on who's a deity and who's not, instead of, for example, who's a Muslim and who's not.
Reject.
There. That's quite a long soliloquy right there. Anyways, so yeah, I agree with them that it shouldn't matter where the idea or action is being taken as far as culturally or any type of group like that.
Yeah, it's like
you judge it on its moral basis, which I think is why we have the problems we have now.
Yeah, it's like, well, he's a victim of his environment. I don't give a fuck. Okay,
Yeah.
Don't matter.
Like
There's
here,
a choice.
yeah.
There's a choice involved.
Like here with politicians and the voting and all that shit, people don't stop looking at like what's their moral code, what's their politics, basically moral codes.
Like no, they don't go together.
They don't. No, they should go together. I think, 100%. 100%.
I'm not calling someone like, well, you're a part of the left. Your morals. It's like, wait, what?
No. I mean, their actual politics.
No, it should be based off
what they're campaigning on is their moral code.
They should
be telling the society that.
So that ain't what it is, though.
I'm saying that's what it should
be. They think my morals match his. Tax cuts. It's like, no, man, stop.
But that's what it should be.
Yeah, ideally.
And yeah, but people team play.
Yeah.
Just like with cultures or religion, they play for their team. Now, at the same time, I do think it's important to understand what the culture is, or whatever that the reason they're following these ideas, whatever that catalyst is. I find we should definitely investigate that. So I wouldn't just throw that away and say I don't care where they come from. I judge their moral code. Like, yeah, that's good, but I'd also care if they're coming from this background or this or that, so I can understand them. Thus, I can tell them like, here's why you're fucking up. Here's what's going on here. I need to point this out to you. I'm guessing he does the same thing. So just throw that out there.
Rejecting what this guy is saying because you personally don't like it and don't agree with it is fine.
According to your personal moral code, anyway. According to his, not so much, I bet. Obviously, I reject his completely and prefer yours, but I still acknowledge that his exists.
But your name is Logicked. I kind of assumed you would logically debunk the concept/idea of humans being slaves to an omniscient god.
I just want to throw in, logic can't be your only way through understanding things.
No.
I mean, you can't even understand logic with just logical means. Yeah. Like, how do you know if your logic is just playing with itself? Playing mental gymnastics.
You never know.
Unless you go beyond just logic itself.
That's why I say existential work is needed.
Yeah. That's why there's more levels to psychology than just purely ego.
Look, it stops there, and then you see the numbers.
Which is why I think people get confused as the brain is the embodiment of you. The thing you consider you-ness is just the brain. It's because they're living purely on the ego level and can't see anything beyond that.
Yeah.
God.
Well, you know what they say, when you assume you make an ass of you and me. Not every video on my channel is a rigorous debunk, but you'll find plenty of those if you want to. Look for the ones arguing about God's existence. Those ones debunk the claim that you want debunked. If there's no God, there are no slaves to God. But unfortunately, there are still plenty of people who think there is a God, and who think that people are slaves to it, and that that's A-okay. And sometimes you just have to make a video exposing that rot.
This video had far more morality and emotion expressed than logic.
Yeah, obviously. My audience does not require a long-winded explanation of why the concept of slavery is bad.
Also, logic is relative. I just want to throw that in there. So when you say rather than emotion, or morality, you'd use logic. Well, logic is relative. If I flip a coin every day, once a day, I flip a penny, and every time it lands on heads, someone gives me $2, or I get $2 somehow. I either find it walking on the street, or I win a lottery number, or someone just hands me $2. It's like, it's logical to think that that penny's magical. Now, not everyone's logic will say that. Like, dude, it's a fucking penny. But theoretically, in this universe, it would be logical to think that that penny is valuable. You can keep mental gymnastics and shape-shifting things in order to make that penny magic. Right? Someone else can go like, let me borrow that penny. And they can flip it like, nothing happened for me. It's like, well, it's special for me. It's magical to me.
Yeah. That's like, right?
And that's, you could just play with logic all day.
The guy's about to pitch, whatever the fuck, comes in during the game, just, like, literally jumps over the fucking foul line.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't. I'm not gonna do it. Why? Dude, I'm not gonna do as good.
And then,
logically, it doesn't make, like, no matter what you say, dude, it won't be good for me. Like,
and
okay.
Yeah. And then he steps on the line and he fucks up, and he's like, fuck. And you're left with the question, was it because he stepped on the line, or was it because he was mentally affected because of stepping on the line? Was it some accident in the universe? It's
Triple H is like, I must blow water out my mouth before every time. If I'm interrupted by any way, I'm fucked. The match will be bad.
Yeah.
Most of us already have that figured out. You know, sometimes it's okay to just give a big fucking middle finger to the anti-human mentality of the religious. So, thoughts? This is a bit of a tricky cut.
Don't just say religious, just say bad ideas, period.
Yeah.
I don't mind giving a middle finger to bad idea.
I don't want a team play here.
Like you said, it's not exclusive to religion or whoever or whatever groups. It's just bad ideas all over in different areas of life. Or society, I should say.
Concept to talk about, especially when you're not quite sure what the person you're arguing with wanted to say. Do you think I have something wrong? Leave a comment, correct me. Even if I don't argue with you, somebody probably will. And subscribe and thumb up the video if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time.
Wait. Press play. It's weird. I hear that a lot, you know? It's like,
yeah. So, interesting video. As you can see, the guy's name is Logicked. Logicked. Go subscribe and comment on his shit. Go give him money on Patreon. And then give us a thumbs down.